In our second session, we are going to be talking about technological advances in construction quality inspection framework. Sharing the stage today here, we have Mr. Uday S Prakash and R Suresha. Mr. Uday Prakash is the CEO of Nemadi. He is an IT industry veteran and is currently making a splash in the construction quality field. He has extensive management insight, gained on the job while growing a knowledge-based organization with extensive interest in processes, quality, and efficiency. Uday has helped spearhead the company's growth by introducing eclectic, innovative, and strategic operations. Now listen. Uday has a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, a dual Master of Science degree in mechanical engineering and computer science, and if that was not sufficient, he has a graduate management program on entrepreneurs and family businesses from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, and out of sheer interest, he also completed a course in advanced corporate finance from Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. For that part alone, audience, please put your hands together. I grew tired of my education long when I was in my kindergarten.
I was called a professional student for a long time.
Yeah. Richly, he is a multi-domain professional, as you just heard, with a varied educational background and buttressed with multicultural experience in USA, Europe, and India. Sharing the stage with Uday today, we have Mr. R Suresha. He is the Chief Operating Officer of Nemadi.in. He is a Bachelor of Engineering with a first-class distinction from BMS College of Engineering, Bangalore, and later he did his MBA in Marketing. An industry veteran with over 36 years of experience, he started his career with industrial projects and later executed various types of infrastructure projects such as irrigation canals, dams, major bridges, roads, aqueducts, power plants, and tunnels. He later moved on to execution of residential and commercial buildings, dealing with planning, contracts, execution, and project management. Mr. Suresha worked at Messrs. A. N. Prakash Construction Project Management Consultants as General Manager, handling residential and commercial building projects. He is currently the CEO of Nemadi.in and also the head of the School of Construction Management Excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Suresha and Uday.
Good morning. By a show of hands, could I see our construction industry brethren in the audience? People from the IT industry? People from any other segment? Which segment are you from, sir? Former IT, sir? Telecommunication. Any other segment? I'm sorry? Power. Automotive. Fantastic. Low voltage systems. Anything else? I'm sure in all these different segments, the quality is something that you look at. You look at measuring quality in some certain form of way. And if there is quality, there's good quality, there is poor quality, right? So you already have frameworks within your system that manages and measures quality. Am I right? Okay. So what we're going to talk about is technological advances in the construction quality inspection framework. This framework is not only applicable to this particular industry, but we feel is applicable to any other industry that this framework is flexible enough to do so, right? This is a case study based on our own experience. I'm going to give a little background about Nemadi. For the people who understand vernacular, Nemadi means peace of mind. So that's what we're trying to achieve. The case study is based on our company, and I'm going to talk about our company in the end. I'm just going to introduce the case study round. So definition of quality. Mr. Joseph M. Juran, who is the preeminent person in terms of quality, defined quality as fitness for purpose, but where fitness is defined by the end customer in that particular transaction, right? So in our transaction, we're talking about the construction industry. Construction industry being a very complex industry, there could be quality for anything, for deliverables in terms of electrical, in terms of plumbing, in terms of the construction, internal, architectural design, anything and everything that has got to do with construction. So that being complex, that also means that we have cost of poor quality. So if there is good quality and poor quality, there needs to be something that associated that says that because of poor delivery, you're going to have some cost associated with it. Am I right? So what is definition of cost of poor quality? By Harrington, he said that this cost will disappear if all the systems, processes, and products that were associated with that particular transaction was to be perfect. right? You get that, right? If it's perfect, that means everything is, so it's a perfect machine. If there's no friction, it's going to go on forever. Similarly, in this case, if all systems and processes involved in this particular transaction were perfect, then you're going to have zero cost of poor quality. That means that any deliverable that comes out of that particular system is going to be perfect, right? In this particular segment of construction, all of us would have seen different types of poor quality. So I'm going to talk, let Mr. Suresh here talk about the different aspects of poor quality.
These are some of the instances what we come across in construction field for the benefit of others who are not experienced. The various defects what we come across in everyday activity. Some of them are like something about the constructability issue. Here the designer thought a twin column would be better for this particular design, but for the contractor executing it, there are a lot of problems which manifest in the types of poor quality in construction. And second is a case of process failure where the concreting process for the second lift of a retaining wall in a basement was not properly followed, resulting in literally flow of water, not just seepage or leakage. And the third one is where there is a deficiency in skill of the worker involved who could not figure out where to fit a towel handle in a toilet. And the fourth one is a system failure where in a post-tension slab, the systems are not properly followed, resulting in a spalling of the concrete. And here is a classic case of perennial problem in any building construction, the dampness. The dampness, which is not visible to the naked eye, can only be found out by infrared imaging, which is on the right side. So, coming to the causes and the costs of poor quality, what we have understood is from a paper presented in IOSR journal that the most of the defects which arise in construction industry have a root in the construction phase, and they amount to 20 to 40% of the total defects in construction. And among this, the 54% of the defects are due to unskilled workers executing the work, or sometimes even due to insufficient supervision. And another 12% of the defects are from the material or system failure. And coming to the cost of the poor quality, if you analyze it, the paper says that the rework cost amounts to 61% of the cost of poor quality, and the material waste is around 23%, and the opportunity lost amounts to 16% of the cost. So these are the costs associated with poor quality and the causes we just went through. And now, just to quote an article in Times of India in May 2016, the total value of construction in India in 2017 was supposed to be 12,000 billion, and normally it is seen that 5% of the cost goes as a waste due to poor quality, or what we just mentioned as the cost of poor quality. So that amounts to nearly 60,000 crores. It's a huge sum. So just going by the case study what we did based on our own experience, I'm just going to take you through what we conducted in a residential building. This was a regular inspection of a project with a lot of flats where we just considered one case where 2,200 SFT flat was being inspected. So by our own experience, we required about 7 man-hours to conduct the inspection. For those who are not aware, so normally inspection is conducted using a hard copy of the checklist which the inspector carries around and his writing pad, then goes through each and every point. In this particular case, for a 2,200 SFT flat, they required to check about 1,500 points. So going by every point, whenever any defect is noticed, he takes a picture. And this picture taking was consuming about 1 man-hour. And once he takes a picture, he has to write down the snag. See, normally when you take a picture, you'll not be able to associate the picture with the location. So what we used to do is we used to carry a small slate where he writes down the flat number and the snag details, and whatever extent other details required to locate the particular snack when he goes for de-snagging again. So for that purpose, he used to write down the snacks, and that was consuming another half man-hour. And later, this whole information is carried to the office, where they sit and edit the photographs to fit into the particular size, and then they match the snacks with the photograph. They are all, see, snacks come from the pictures come from the photograph, camera, and the snacks have to be written down in the notebook what he carries. So that matching used to take another half an hour, and this was being passed on to a senior professional who used to just review the whole inspection process. That was taking about 1 hour. With all this, the report preparation used to take another 2.5 hours for the Excel sheet to be properly formatted, and then all the reviews have been completed, and then it is made ready as a report. This report had to be shared with all the stakeholders. That was taking another 1/4 hour. So in total, we were spending about 13.75 hours per cycle of inspection, right from the time he enters and till the time the report reaches all the stakeholders. So this was a real pain point. It was taking a lot of time. We were unable to cope with the schedule. And one more problem what we noticed was the information flow and the leakage of information, right, passed on through the hierarchy. The first person who comes in contact with the information about the quality issues, the contractor's engineer. He notices so many things. Then the information passes on next to the site engineer, who is from the client side. As you are all aware, the total information is never passed on for various reasons. First, just to cover up certain things, what he doesn't want the other people to know, he will retain some information, and some information he feels not very important, so he may not pass on, and sometimes some informations are intentionally withheld. All this resulted in our own experience. We experienced that only about 80% of the information goes to the site engineer. Then later, he has to share the information to the project in charge. Again, by the same factors what I told you already, only about 60% of the information reaches the project in charge. The original, what I mean is, the original information what is captured in the site at the time of inspection. And then the project in charge in turn passes only a part of the information. In our experiences, what we have seen is about 10% is withheld there, probably to enhance his career enhancing strategy. So this is obviously followed, and the CEO gets only half of the information, rather the half of the picture of what is happening in the site. So two issues we noticed here. One is the enormous time taken to inspect, prepare a report, share it with the stakeholders, and then second, the information withholding or information leakage en route to the top. So to address these two issues, we gave a lot of thought, and then we came out with a solution from our IT field. So what we did was to amalgamate the civil engineering technology with copious help from the IT, and we call it as automated inspection management system. This is the result of two fields working together, which finally resulted in a technological edge, what we call as PICS, derived from the pictures what we capture to pass on the quality related issues. And here the picture is captured on a telephone, a normal mobile smartphone, what everybody carries, and the software at the back office is programmed with a checklist.
The reason why we decided to use a phone is because it's ubiquitous right now. Everybody in the pyramid, even the bottom of the pyramid, has access to a smartphone. And seeing that everybody uses it, everybody can use WhatsApp, everybody can use different technologies. So we felt that that is the right way to go to, because then it is accessible across the spectrum of users, not only in our construction segment, but also in other segments.
This obviated the need for carrying one more device for inspection. The normal handheld phone was used for inspection. And this gave rise to a lot of insights which further resulted in knowledge. And this whole thing is managed by a console, which collects all the data, collates it, and all the slicing and dicing is possible, which Mr. Uday will explain later. And this central management of information on quality resulted in a lot of savings, not to mention the increase in productivity. I'll just take you through what exactly happened when we were doing earlier in the manual process. This, what I already explained to you, this process, if you take it as a base point, it was consuming about 13.75 man-hours to complete the manual inspection, report making, and sharing the reports, which was replaced by automated inspection management system, wherein we were able to inspect, take photograph, write the snags, edit the photo. Everything is possible just in 4 man-hours. And review was happening only another half an hour, and within 4.5 hours we were able to complete 1 cycle of inspection. So this resulted in a lot of saving of nearly 67%. So this generated a lot of information which was gathered, and we call it as mountains of data. Mr. Uday will take you through what we did with data, what we collected.
Thank you. Obviously, all of us have done this before, quality inspections. We've had pieces of paper and ink. At the end of the day, that gets stored in a storehouse somewhere. And even though we have all these data points, have we had somebody collate it and perform any analytics on that data? There may be a few people who would collect these data points, put it in Excel, and continue doing some analysis on it. But as time progresses, if that particular person was to either stop doing what they're doing, or if they were to leave the organization, then that particular process stops. So all the data that were collected, maybe for one project, maybe out of interest for that particular individual. But we have construction industries which will have 15, 20, 30 projects. There could be architectural firms that have hundreds of projects that are done over the years. There could be PMCs that have been doing work with a lot of projects over the years. We know of Mr. Prakash, who's done more than 1,500 projects over the last 30 years. But all these data points that are there, which is lying on a piece of paper, have not provided any tangible information to us. So we feel that, let's just take a look at one particular project, right? So we have one project, we say we have 2 towers, and then each tower has got 10 floors, each floor has got 4 units, and each unit has got different facets, have got different aspects. So you've got electrical, plumbing, firefighting, etc. So that means that when somebody inspects each of this, you're going to have thousands and thousands of data points for just this small project. So if you're talking about huge projects, you're going to have millions of data points that come out. At the end of the day, what are you doing with these data points? We know that it's going to go to a contractor, he's going to probably go and rectify it, and then at the end of that, it's finished. The next project generates again points. So we've realized that all of this was not being used. It was not constructively being used by all the people generating these points. So we felt it's useful to have an MIS that will not only give you progress information, process information, quality information, but you'll also be able to do analysis of all the data points that we have. If you were to see for our industry, say the construction industry, we have a particular aspect that's inspected, so a snag is generated. We can then set a timeline for when this snag needs to be rectified. Then we have a fixing process. So the fixing process was done in a particular amount of time. In this case, then you can monitor if the fixing process was done properly or not. We were able to monitor that, and we were able to give you performance data. Then after that was processed, then we saw whether the D-snag was done, whether all of this was fixed properly or not. If it was not fixed, then we again go back. The feedback cycle is instantaneous because all of this data is real time on the web, on the cloud, right? So this gives you progress information for people sitting. So if you may have 15, 20 projects that you're managing, you don't need to go and travel everywhere. You have this real-time dashboards that's available, which is connected to all these projects, and you get all of this information instantaneously. Quality, so you can see the number of snags that are being related, the number of snags, whether they have reduced over a period of time, whether they've increased in a particular aspect. So if you're talking about electrical, we saw that there were a lot of snags that were because of tile laying, We saw snags that were related to fixtures, right? So then we also saw that because these do have different service providers attending to 2 different towers or maybe 3 different towers, we've compared the performance of these individual subcontractors. So a subcontractor who was laying tiles in A tower compared to a subcontractor who was laying tiles in B tower. We were able to see that the number of snags that were generated by one compared to the other was lower. So we were able to tell the projects team saying that, look, this guy is doing a better job vis-a-vis this person or this and this company. So they were able to then talk about, works, future works, and how connection needs to be done, retention amount and things. So all of that was connected. Then we had analysis. So if you have just one small project, we were able to get more than 1 million data points out of this. We were able to then analyze, slice and dice data however we wanted and perform data analytics. So when you have all of this data that comes to you, you're able to then look at slicing and dicing data wherever you want to, however you want to. You have different towers. Each tower you have floors. Each floor you have units. Each units you have aspects. And in each aspect you can go down into, we went down into levels of bolt fixtures, shutters. So we were able to see the performance of each individual vendor. So that was very useful. This information was made available to the top management, to people on the site, and across levels. So what this gave people was decision-making power. It was instantaneous decision-making power that was done. So quality feedback was instantaneous and was in real time. So people didn't have to wait for an email to go, people to check the email, or my email didn't reach me, I'm in a place where I don't get any email, my phone was not working, I was not able to give information. All of this was done. The other useful thing is that this is all pictographical, and this is instantaneous and annotated. And you have the description of that particular problem that's visible right below the picture. Okay? So what this does is, this also gives us ability to move towards the IT sector, where we're trying to bring in machine learning, where pattern recognition comes into play. So tomorrow, not only working with humans, we want to see if we can get in pattern recognition and machine learning to be able to improve on the quality of our work. So human intervention, subjectivity is being removed. So I'm talking with this case where we entered a particular project where already a particular team was working, and when we entered the team, this site, we saw that the snags were about 150 snags. That's the Y column. The X column is time frame. And as inspection was done, as quality feedback was given, there was feedback given to the projects team. The projects team then passed it on to the contractor side. The contractor was able to then make changes to the subcontractors or whomever. Quality aspects were taken care of. Materials were changed. Vendor procurement was changed. So as you can see, over a time frame, your number of snags reduced. Obviously, there are outliers. Every now and then you'll have outliers. But overall, the quality of the project improved. The snags reduced. Phase 1, when we had entered, and this was a construction project that had already progressed, so we entered in between, we found that the number of snags before implementation of our framework was around 90 in phase 1. By the time we finished, it was down to 40. That means there was a 56% reduction. This was because of a continuous feedback cycle. This feedback cycle, which is instantaneous, which is descriptive, and has got quantitative but not subjective data information, people take to it and make changes. The other one in phase 2, as you can see, was from 102, came down to 59, which is about 42%. Why we feel that this adoption has been more than others, we feel is that, as you can see at the bottom of the pyramid, adoption is the greatest problem. Nobody wants to adopt to this because they feel that whoever does this, they need to take one extra step to perform the task that they're already doing. Right? If you were to go down to an engineer at the ground and say, boss, you take this, you do this more, he'll say, Arey yaar, kab se kar raha hu, why should I do this again? So what we found is our framework was able to reduce the time involved, but the productivity that he had was more. So the adoption of this technology was better. People actually said, okay, I don't mind using it, because they already had their own phone. Right? So this was something that is useful. How does it all connect? We know that it's an infinite feedback loop. So a QA engineer will perform a test. He performed the test, and then while performing the test, he did things that he was supposed to do. He didn't work on aspects that was not his mandate. You know, creating an Excel sheet, uh, photographs editing, annotating, all of that is not his mandate. I mean, agreed that in this day and age, we do it because it's a part of the requirement. But as a QA engineer, that's not his mandate, right? So that timing save and productivity saving was better. Then maybe they found something. We found that during our inspection, a lot of points were not being in the original checklist. So this was then given. We updated our framework in real time. And when this was updated in real time, all the information was passed on to all the other inspectors in that particular project in real time, which then gave the console and website a real-time update. So information was passed to all the different stakeholders and vendors. Decisions were taken immediately. When decisions were taken immediately, they were again came back to the QA engineer who performed the task that he was supposed to do. So this infinite loop went on, and that's what improved the quality. So as quality is measured in different ways, literature, obviously there are a lot of people, and as he said, I was continuously studying, a lot of people talk about what are the different measures of quality. We've been able to say that in this framework, we've been happy to, all tangible aspects of quality we've been able to touch. But we're still working on this. We feel that we've been able to touch, except aesthetics and perceived quality, we've been able to touch every other thing. Thank you. Just take a few minutes to discuss about why we feel that Nemadi as a company has the lineage, so to speak, to be able to do what we are doing. So this is a very new organization. The framework was only developed about 6 months ago. IT, we went to our i3 brethren and got this developed and put it on the cloud. We are an offshoot of a parent company, which is a project management consulting firm, which has been in existence for 30 odd years. And seeing that there's a need on the ground, we were able to say that, fine, let's go ahead and develop some software that's able to help not only the construction industry, but also can be any other segment where this framework can be applied. So we've been able to do this, and hopefully it could be useful for others too. Thank you. Questions?
We have a first question.
Hi, good morning. I'm Sudhakar from ABB.
Good morning, Sudhakar.
Basically,
From Sudhakar from?
ABB India Limited.
Okay.
We are into process automation. I'm handling the power projects. Actually, civil has been a sort of a question mark always to us in the projects where we are handling bigger projects. We always see the construction engineer is handling the engineering given by the engineering officers, okay? And we have multiple people working in engineering handling different aspects of it. Do you have any processes where they can handle these quality aspects of engineering, that is connect between the different points, checkpoints, or I hope I'm clear with my question, because
you're talking about a standard operating procedure essentially.
Yeah.
So what we do is this framework is flexible enough to be able to take any standard operating procedure, which could be transformed into a checklist. So as we've seen in this industry, we have checklists that are followed not only for checking finished products, but during construction, as you saw, and also for aspects of plumbing, firefighting. So as long as you have a checklist that's inherent to your organization or your industry, and checklist can be turned into okay, not applicable, this framework can handle it. It could be also be a numeric input. It could also be an image input. It could be anything. So what this does, it looks for what your okay is, it compares it to what is reality, and then takes a decision, and then moves on.
Okay. And I was looking at the case study which you have given, sorry.
Yeah.
The phase 2 had more of the snacks.
Yes.
And there was a less in percentage of the what you call finding of the snacks because of the quality inspects.
Yes.
In the percentage perspective, is there any specific reason, or the now guys are getting used to it and then they are trying to avoid pushing more issues into your system?
Okay, so there is a twofold answer. One is the phase 1 was a smaller building. It was 2 BHK, 3 BHK. Phase 2 was 3 BHK, 4 BHK and penthouses, which went up to 8,000 square feet. So number of snags inherent in the system when we came were much larger. As you could see, was around 202 to start with. It takes time, right? We were in the project only for 6 months. For projects that are 7,000, 8,000 square feet for one penthouse, for somebody to understand what to do, and you can understand the amount of inertia the system has, right? So we are trying to move something that has a huge momentum in the opposite direction that we have. So it takes time for things to change, but we are happy to say that it's improved. I mean, 42% change in improvement of quality, I would not say is small. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's true.
Thank
But generally what I always see is once you are getting into a sort of a phase 2, which I have been seeing in some of our projects, that construction engineering and the quality engineer gets a hands in and they try to
They can't.
report less.
So this is the framework
How
is designed in such a way that there is no middleman action that can come into play. Okay. So once the framework is designed and given to your inspector, any industry, there is no way that an inspector can touch any of the data. The amount of granularity in which you can go to check is whether this person had actually was on site to check that particular point. Was it checked? What time is what checked? It could go on to the second. I can tell you that this particular inspector checked this point at this particular second in the day.
Are there any quality checkpoints what they have to usually check, and is any checklist type which is always identified?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Is there any checklist? What are the points they have to check in general, and then the regular issues?
So this system is as good as what you give into it, right? So as they say in IT, garbage in, garbage out. So the system that you give, the framework that you have, the checklist that you give is what that particular inspector will check. For our own work, for our organization, we have a checklist which has got more than 2,500 checkpoints. So it covers all aspects of construction. So that's what we do. 1 second.
Thanks.
There is also a provision to add general observations in this. Not only the one which follow the checklist. If you find anything apart from what is there mentioned in the checklist, you can add it as a general observation.
It's like, shall I put it, the quality engineer has a provision to add the checkpoints if he sees that they are regularly happening and not in the list.
Yeah.
See, as I told you, remember I told you this is a continuous feedback. So the QA engineer sees that there is something that's not being inspected. The framework is flexible enough to add that. So the next inspection round that comes through, that would be what. So when this happens across your industry, you have hundreds of engineers giving you different feedbacks. The system improves a delta every inspection.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all.
Yeah, I think I'm loud enough anyway. Yeah, just pursuant to that topic, I was also wondering whether does this have a potential to become like a rating system, because snags are a reality in the construction industry, various diverse agencies involved. So could this be like a rating system for de-snagging in terms of efficiency or in terms of time for all RFIs raised on site and so on?
It's possible. The framework currently
Internal quality audit or something?
it could be an internal quality audit. It is possible. That's the base for where we were able to rate or compare different vendors and different things. So we were able to say that this particular vendor and this particular tower performed tile laying. We have, yeah. So thank you for bringing. We actually rated one of our clients. We were able to rate them and give them certificates for the work that we've done. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Sairam. Thank you for sharing a wonderful case study.
Thank you.
And it's amazing to see that you're already using data analytics, going to use machine learning for recognizing images, snag image information, etc. Brilliant. And I'm also amazed to see that it's already on the cloud. It's an app. That's what my understanding
Yes,
is.
it's on the cloud. It's on AWS.
One question on the practicality. Some of the
Yes.
large projects are outskirts, right?
Yes.
So are you able to really get the data and the connectivity? What was their experience, sir?
Yeah.
More of a practicality
Fantastic.
question.
You can see me smiling when you ask that question. So this framework was designed because we know in the civil engineering industry, we bring civilization to where there was none, right? So that means that inherent infrastructure is absent. So the system needs to be able to handle capturing data and disseminating data whenever the framework comes into play. So the framework is able to capture all the data that needs to be done, and as soon as you're able to connect onto a data network, it pushes everything and it gets populated.
Maybe a dock kind of concept where you can go put the.
I don't need a dock, it's just a phone. So
Okay,
as
once they have connectivity, it works. Okay.
once I have
perfect.
connectivity, it says sync. We've also designed it in such a way, because each project can have, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of photos. So we've designed it that it can upload photos in a way that it doesn't jam your system and jam the phone. So say you've finished inspecting concreting, right? You may have 147 photographs. If you try to upload 147 photographs, you're going to jam.
Yes.
So what it's going to do is it's going to upload in phase 1 of pour, phase 2 pour, phase 3 pour, maybe a column pour, maybe a, something like that. So it's going to, in quantifiable uploads, it's going to upload and get all that
Absolutely.
information.
Thank you so much. And also this data assets can be utilized in all the quality meetings for
Yes.
like reusable, and it's wonderful agility. I see that feedback loops are nicely closed. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Talking about data points, we're also have masked data across the different projects that we've done. So since the data is redacted and masked, we're able to perform analytics on this to give information to others. Right? Thank you.
Is this app or system, is it extendable to the pads and laptop as
Yes. It's just an app. It's a
And,
phone app, yeah.
well? And with this data that you collect, what I see is over the time you collect lots and lots of data. Do you
Yeah.
have any plans to, use the data in a very
That's-
different way?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is, since the data is masked, and obviously quality data is private to that particular project, so we mask it and redact it, so we don't know the system doesn't understand from where it's getting all this data, but since we have hundreds of projects, we're able to get all of this and provide analytics for people who want it. So we're looking at providing, this is the next step, we're looking at, say somebody says, I want to put up a building of 2 towers in this particular soil, in this particular type of formwork, using this particular type of concrete. We'll say, based on the data that we have, please be aware that predictively we can tell you these are the amount of snags in this particular aspect you need to keep aware of. So we're going to give predictive solutioning to them. Right? Thank you.
And you suggested that it can be installed in any phone.
Yeah.
So what's
It's an Android phone right now.
does every user needs to install that app to take the pics and send
Yes, exactly.
that? What's the memory size? That's
The
looking-
size of the app,
Yeah.
it's about 84 MB.
MB. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's rather small, yeah.
Any more questions?
My name is Selva Vijay. I'm just interested to know the amalgamation of IT. Has it changed the educational qualification for the people on the floor or contract engineers?
No,
Do
so
you foresee
this system is agnostic of who uses it. We are trying to see that this is used by everybody, even at the bottom of the pyramid. So if we were to take this to people who are masons, even today masons use a smartphone, right? Yeah, so what we're trying to say is this system or the framework is useful enough that they're able to give it to a mason and say, boss, use this. Once you finish your fixing, so there's a snag detected by somebody, the mason is going to fix the snag, he's going to take it and say, I'm done. His job's done. Yeah. So he doesn't have to worry. It's like a WhatsApp press. He just clicks, annotates, finished, done. It's a 3-step process for sending data. That's it.
Just, once the app is opened in the smartphone, the checklist question appears there. Only has to read English.
Yeah, okay, so he spoke about English. We're also now moving, because when we try to get projects in Tamil Nadu, the vernacular was an issue. So we are trying to localize it, so we're going to bring in localization. So when we go up north and when we go down south, the question is the same. Quality questions are always the same. It's just when you bring in localization, it's going to work in slightly better fashion. If you want to see the system after this, we can show it to you. You can take a look. It's got everything in it. Yeah, yeah. Talking about color coding, I think this. Yeah, so this has got colors, right? So you can see. So the blue is. Yeah. So everything that's blue there indicates that those are okay points. Red is something that's not okay. You have amber. You have light green and dark green. So it's been checked, rechecked. Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Without naming your clients, can you just give some real life examples of how did you apply this?
This is from the case study of a client, a live client. We were able to help them. The CRM team was the happiest. The projects team was next. The CRM team were not being blindsided because we had a lot of people who would come and say that, so the CRM team would go and try and sell a project and sell, hand over this apartment, and then the client would come and say, oh, I have this problem here, this problem there, that, yada, yada, yada. So the CRM team didn't know how to react to that, right? So once we came into the picture, we had all these different stakeholders who would have a console, who would be able to see all the different information. So once this came through and we had information that was shared, the projects team would make the changes and say that it's been corrected. The CRM team would know what was the problem, how it was changed, and what the current status is. The CRM team would then be able to tell the client, boss, look, this is a natural material. This will have shade variation. This is inherently got cracks in it. I can't give you a product which is natural by your request, which will be like man-made product. So the CRM team was more educated to talk to the client. The projects team, on the other hand, were able to say, look, I know that this snag has arisen in this floor on this particular aspect, and it needs to be corrected in this particular time. So they were able to plan and do better time management, cost management, and people management. So they were happy also.
Okay. Second question.
Yeah, here.
Carry on, please.
Phenomena we observed. There was a lot of reluctance from the projects team when we introduced this, thinking that their follies will be exposed. But later, as the project went on, due to proactive snagging, the projects team down the lane, they came to know this is going to be exposed anyway. So let's correct it before they find it out. So like that, the snag levels came down gradually due to instantaneous feedback.
The behaviors got changed, actually.
Yes.
Yes.
Ultimately, the projects manager was very happy.
Right.
Without his effort, the snag level came down.
And you mentioned about rating the agencies. I think you can't do that unless we have some certifying authorities such as the government. So is there a plan that you are going to really associate yourself with government authorities? Otherwise, I mean, these ratings does not mean anything in the industry, really.
When I say rating, it could be different kinds of rating. I'm not talking about IGB's rating, or I'm not talking about rating like your platinum rating. I'm talking about giving a score within the project.
Okay.
Or I can give, say, for example, if I have 2 different electrical vendors, 5 different electrical vendors, I can score them, right? I'm rating them. So obviously, if I was to say that I'm going to rate a project, then I will be talking to the client to say that this is the industry standards. Based on this industry standard, I can tell you this is what it is. But for this project, your requirements are your standards. Let us get into an agreement. And based on this level, we will be able to look at the quality for your project. But we will not go below what the industry standards are. Okay, anecdotally, we know what industry standards are. Experience tells us what industry standards are. BIC tells us what industry standards are, right? But yes, you were talking about, right now, the country is not yet that advanced that we have quality to see, to be able to give in a lot of different ways. Yes, this gentleman first, sir, 1 second.
I just had a question. The case study, was that, were those reports generated by your team, or was that, was the whole reports done by the construction?
So the reports are generated by the framework. There is no intervention by people. So whatever is captured by the app is passed on to the framework. The framework generates everything. The inspection, it can be done by either one. If you want the third party to be doing it, because then the left hand never, punishes the right hand. That way you have a third party who does it. Then we are agnostic to whom we report to, only the management. So we can do it. But if somebody says that no, we have our own quality team, and the quality team only reports to the management, we'll do it. We are comfortable. Fine. The framework takes care of that. You can do that also. So there is no intervention possible after the inspection until the report is generated by anybody else. It is airtight.
I was also asking because is there any training required?
There is absolutely no training required to use the app. To set up the app though, because it is you got to enter data, you got to be able to manage everything. There is a learning curve of maybe 6 to 7 hours. Anybody who can use an Excel sheet will be able to understand this. Yeah. Mr. Manjunath, yes sir.
Yeah. Looking at the last mile connectivity, but in construction industry, the workers are the people who execute all these projects actually. Have you done anything to make them aware that this kind of systems are there where the inspection is done and they have to do a quality work? So we can eliminate the errors itself. They're aware that somebody is watching them regularly. And
yeah, that's a good point. As you know, in the Indian diaspora and the way the India decisions works in this industry is it's top down. The management takes a decision and says, do it, and everybody else does it. But there has to be adoption, right? So we are able to make this framework simple enough that people at the bottom of the pyramid also are able to adopt to it. Even if we talk to them and say, boss, please do this, it's going to help you, what is the incentive for them to do it? Right now, it's not incentivized. The way that it's going to be done, incentive is, what we have provided is that ease of use. So they don't have to fill in a piece of paper, it doesn't get dirty, it doesn't get scrubbed when it rains, it doesn't go off, cement doesn't fall on it. It's just an app. When it's sent, data is captured and it's always there for posterity. And we're talking about RERA now, talking about quality. So all of this is on the cloud. It's accessible to anybody at any point in time, right?
One point of adaptation is that the worker who is executing the project, every day, whatever he does the work, he has to take a photograph and upload into the system.
It doesn't have to be worker, it could be anybody. Any person who is interested in quality. It doesn't have to be only in the construction segment. We're talking about automotive, we're talking about power. In automotive segment, there is, a chain, so that can be adopted. People today, we see Toyota that has a piece of paper and does it, right? IBM Watson is looking at machine learning to be able to identify snags in printed circuit boards manufacturing. This framework is able to do what IBM Watson is to do is at a fraction of the cost. It may not have the brain power that IBM Watson has, may not have the computational power, but it has got the capacity to do what it does. Thank you.
Just to add to what he told, Mr. Manjunath, when the snag is reported, finally it has to be rectified. The de-snagging has to go on. That again runs in the same app. The inspector has captured it, and then the executing engineer, he carries the app again and goes through the snag points. There it is verified with what has been carried out, and probably there will be an interaction with the worker who rectifies it and shows him what is the snag and asks him to rectify. And once it is rectified, he records another status, rectified, not rectified, or partially rectified. That information is also captured. In the second phase, it will be rather interactive with the worker who does it, and he will know that these things are captured and they have to be rectified. There is no escape. Yeah, because report generation is instantaneous. The moment he captures and uploads, the report is seen by everybody. So they can take proactive.
He captures instantaneous. So what we are missing is, it depends on the life cycle, right? If I'm doing a pre-delivery quality inspection, then the project is already complete. It's only for finishes I'm checking. So it's done in a 4-hour life cycle and the report is ready. If you're talking about during construction, it happens regularly, right? I'm pouring concrete today on first, then I'm pouring on second, I'm pouring on third. It could be pour 1, pour 2, pour 3. It could be multiple pours and multiple towers. So this happens at that particular instant of time that you want it to be checked. It's not mandated by anybody else. It could be mandated by your QA head, could be mandated by your own team head.
So this is a check done on a reinforcement for a slab. So the annotation shows what is the defect, where it is lying, and immediately he is able to go through that. So rectification becomes immediate. Depends on which part of the cycle you are in.
Please.
I'll give you the mic.
So he's our mentor, so he has the capacity to answer it.
Mentor for answering questions.
Okay.
Manjunath, I have understood what you are saying, I think. That photograph can be used for training and making sure that he doesn't do the mistake next, yes. So once you have taken that, obviously it could probably be used for saying that you don't do these mistakes, this has happened. Obviously, so you have a record, you can share. If I have, as a mason, done it, and so is the next mason next to her, we can tell him that, no, this Prakash has done this goofer, make sure that you don't do it. That can be done.
Also, like minimizing the mistake, incentivize the
No, that's beyond this domain, but whatever they are talking, that it's beyond that framework, but it can be used. I mean, we can take that as an input to see how we can tell them now next, we have a feedback from Manjunath, we can use this also.
Thank you. Okay, we have one last question. I'll hand it over to the lady here.
Hi, my name is Preeti, and
Hi, Preeti.
so we are talking about everything real time, and since the app is connected to
Cloud.
data, cloud, and everything. So how does it happen? Because still now in India also we have lot of data issues or internet connectivity issues. So when someone goes and inspects in such a building which is not exactly where you have a connectivity real time, so how does this thing helps your app, or something else comes in picture?
So we know that most site offices have internet connectivity, right? So you may have a tower that may not have connectivity on the 29th floor, but once you come down, go into your site office, you do have connectivity. As long as you have 3G connectivity, sufficient. 2G will work, but it'll take a longer period of time. But 3G connectivity at the minimum, which is now prevalent everywhere, works. So what the person does is, in the morning or in the afternoon, whenever, the framework is set. So they need to have certain inspections. Say he's inspecting form work. It's set up by the person who is, say, a manager, and then that gets downloaded onto your app or whoever needs to inspect. Then they go onto the site. So the whole day they will do their particular inspection. They'll come down, and then at the end of the day, they will come in, as that gentleman said, a doc. He'll come in and he'll just say upload. So this gets uploaded, right? So if you're within city limits, or if you're within limits where you have data connectivity, after every modular inspection, you can upload it. That is actual real time. We don't want to have photographs upload as soon as you have it taken, because then that will jam the system. We can do it. I mean, if you have a phone that's got 8 GB RAM or 16 GB RAM, that's fine. But we're talking about people at the bottom of the pyramid who will have maybe 3 GB RAM, right? And we have maybe 3 GB connection. So you're talking about companies that give them a data card that will do this. As we talk and educate people, we're trying to see if they can give people at the bottom of the pyramid or give their quality team systems that could be assets of the organization but have certain configuration, right? Or you can have hotspots set up, because you have geo hotspots or whatever hotspots that are set up, and then people can come and keep uploading, right? Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I can see that this topic is generating a lot of questions. We shall take more questions offline. The speakers will be available here. In the meantime, I would like to call upon Vijay Paul, past president, PMI Bangalore chapter, to come on stage and honor our speakers. Please put your hands together for a wonderful session. Ladies and gentlemen, applause.